Oh, but now that we have this electricity, now we can create some stuff that needs electricity. And guess what? They won't only want it in America, they'll want it all around the world. That's what happened. Oh, me, John D. Rockefeller, I'm controlling oil and its refinement, and 80% comes through my company. But guess what? We have some stuff we're throwing away. The offshoots of the oil refinement. What was it called? Gasoline. We don't know what to do with this stuff. It's so combustible. Well, this guy Ford comes along and says, hey, you know, that automobile thing, I think more people should be able to get the automobile. I think we can make them in such a way that the average American can get them. So he says, what if we take this assembly line thing and apply it to the building of automobiles? We can produce more automobiles in a day than the biggest companies were producing in a year. Now, John D. Rockefeller is like, hey, you know, they've got to fuel that thing. So this stuff we were throwing away that's highly combustible, we all using our gas tanks today to get here. Or for the jets to fly us here. Except for those of us who are more conscious and you drove them in a hybrid or electric car. I'm getting there. If you drove in your Leaf, I didn't today. But it's because I brought people. So it's a gas guzzler out there, which my mom constantly ridicules me for. But that's another subject. Back to the point of creativity. Are you all with me? Yes. Excellent. I see some smiles, so that's what we want. So the idea is, ideas are the foundation. You don't have to have all of the resources. And guess what? That's kind of the way the system is built. Hey, you can't do it by yourself. You need some people to help you. And that's how I built it. Not for you to be dependent on others, but to be interdependent and do it together through cooperation. That's what this conference is about, cooperation. Creating through cooperation, okay? So now that we understand that, and we've got all of this value that's going to come to us because we're creators, and we're going to cooperate, and we're not going to allow the fact that I don't have this resource cause me not to put forth my idea. Because guess what? If Bill Gates and his good friend Paul Allen had done that, there would be no Microsoft, and IBM wouldn't have put out the computer that they did because they didn't have an operating system, but Bill Gates promised that, hey, we can write the system to run your computer, which we've never seen, don't have one, but we can write that system for you. Paul Allen says, what do you mean, Bill? How are we going to do it? Bill says, not only are we going to do it, we're going to do it in 90 days. IBM's like, great idea, make it happen. Paul Allen's like, what are you saying? We can't do it. That was the point. It was impossible. It caused them to dig into their what? Creativity. And they had to cooperate in a way that they did deliver it. And they delivered it beyond just delivering it. They delivered it and then negotiated with IBM to say, hey, you're going to pay for all of this. But guess what? We're not going to just hand it over to you. We're going to license it to you. Two guys dropped out, fledgling little business, IBM, $40 billion company. Hey, we're not going to just hand it over. We're going to license it to you. We're going to own it after we created it for you. And you paid us to do it. Which company is bigger today? Microsoft. So they didn't have the resources. IBM had the resources. They had the creativity. You all following me? You getting my point? So the point is, it's good that you don't have all the resources, because if you did, you'd think you can do it all by yourself. I'm an island, I don't need anybody. So let's move on. Now we've got all of this resource flowing. Because we're boundless in our creativity, there's no limits on our ability. We're going to develop our capabilities, our capacities, right? Because you have to develop that. That's like the knowledge, you've got to do the application for it to be effective. So let's go. What do we need to do? What to do with $1? Here's something that you can take back and share with the children that you have interaction with. And some of us can apply some of these basic lessons. Because this is what we're going to need to do. There's a couple things to know that, well, how am I going to translate that dollar when it's no longer the world's reserve currency? I can't tell you all of that right now. But as it was stated, there are resources that will be available to you later. But we need to know, how do we use these resources just practically? And this is just a model, a blueprint. Like we said, Google Maps, GPS wouldn't exist without there being a map or a blueprint, okay? Here's what happens in the economy. 1% of the economy is generated in the upper echelons. So 1% of the economy controls most of the resources, okay? So 99% of us operate here. But the 1% control most of the resources. Our economy produces about $15 trillion. I'm going to go really quickly on this. Now, they say we're in debt about $15 trillion, right? Or more, 16, 17. The world economy produces in excess of $50 trillion. There's some stuff we can do in cooperation. Our collective wealth is about $55 trillion. That's our financial capital. That doesn't take into consideration our human capital, all of you that are here, our intellectual capital that's here, all of these ideas and creativity that creates the currency in the first place. That's a whole other subject. Now, our collective wealth, if we include the human capital, somewhere around 118 trillion. That's just all of our ability to produce. But it doesn't even take into the account the fact that if I try to reproduce either one of you, just your mind, let's just say that. Let's try and come up with a computer that does what your mind does. What's that going to cost? How big does that computer have to be? We can't even build it. But if we tried, you know, take the new Freedom Towers where the World Trade Centers first stood. You can fill it up with computers and it still wouldn't create the output of your mind. If we could just harness the electro energy in you, you could run this city. You get what I'm saying? So your human capital is so far beyond what we can even imagine in so many cases. Here's how the wealth breaks down. Again, the 1% controls the mass majority. 80% of America's wealth is controlled by the top percent, while 20% is controlled by the bottom 90%. Our job, our opportunity, which has responsibility, is to figure out how do we deliver that value. And perhaps we can help the group here gain more of that wealth. That's our opportunity. Warren Buffett, a lot of people say, man, he must make so much money. You know, his salary is just around $100,000. We know people all day long that earn $100,000. But his wealth, his worth, is in excess of $44 billion. He's created value in so many ways beyond his personal ability. So, here's a plan for wealth mastery. Remember, we said knowledge isn't power. What's power? Apply knowledge. Now, if you apply knowledge consistently and persistently, eventually, there's this rule of 10,000 hours. You become what they call what? An expert, right? You become a master, a chess master, a golf master, a music master, like a Wolfgang, those guys. Y'all follow me? All right. We want to master this wealth and this distribution. First is, I mentioned earlier, your goal should be to realize your fullest potential. Meaning, if you can do better, shouldn't you? Ask yourself, if you can do better, if you can serve more, if you can create more, if you can deliver more value, shouldn't you? Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you've got, like me, all of these products, Apple Suite products, and you're not really using them, should you be buying the next one or the latest one? It's like, no, maximize what you already have, right? So we need to maximize our potential. Now, maximize our resources. What resources are available? That's each other, our collective cooperation, our mental resources, and all of that. Now I want you to apply what I talked about earlier, the ATM. How many of us have gone to an ATM? Pull out a little money here and there? Sometimes there's a fee, sometimes there's not. There's an ATM that the wealthy use. I mentioned it earlier. Your attitude. What's your philosophy? Are you in control of your economy, or are the government's decisions, Wall Street's decisions in control of the economy? Which one is it? You have to decide. How do you use your time? Again, you should be commended for being here. You're one out of 400 million seeds that your dad sent to penetrate the egg. You're one out of 300 million Americans. You're one out of 7 billion humans on the planet. How you use your time, you're using your time wisely. That's something to be commended. And then how do you use your money? These are the things that we need to figure out to take advantage of what we called the New Wealth Revolution. Now, I'm going to just give you a summary of some of the other things in here because there are other speakers that need to come and share their brilliance with you. In simple terms, I use a 70-10-10-10 approach. That means 70 cents out of every dollar is the maximum amount that we should use for our lifestyle expenditures. I'm paying my rent, my mortgage, my car for transportation, my entertainment, my clothing. Y'all follow me? No more than 70 cents out of a dollar. 10 cents for many of us would go to our church, right? Tithe, basically. Some of us, none of us. Pastor, you hearing this? We ain't got a bunch of people raising their hand on that. But that's not for me to say. I'm just here presenting an idea. But 10% of that goes to church. Some of us may say charity. Another 10% I will recommend that you use for what is called active capital. That's your business enterprise. That's the entrepreneurial ventures. That's what this country was birthed upon. Those 56 who were threatened to go to the gallows, they were enterprising. They created a system of free enterprise, capitalism. That's what we're here to embrace, understand the rules of, take full advantage of those rules. We need to understand the Internal Revenue Code. Although it's like 18 million words, that's a bunch that we'll never understand. But we need to understand it enough that we don't overpay. We pay our fair share. We pay what we're responsible to. But we need to understand the rules of that and how it changes and how that impacts us, so that we can maximize our resources, right? You follow me? The other 10% is passive capital. That's the person over here who has an idea that you didn't come up with, but you think it's a good idea, so I'm going to give them 10% of my wealth or my income or my earnings or what I have stewardship over to execute that idea. I believe in it. They have good character, integrity. I was making up my own word, charity. If y'all like that word, we'll use it. They have character and integrity that you admire, you trust. I'll give them money. That's how Buffett's wealth is $44 billion. He used other people's money to create value and to invest in enterprises that he did the research on while they're working their job, doing what they do. So you might say, hey, I'm not an entrepreneur. I work for the government. I'm here today because I'm on furlough. And I was like, hey, let me go look at some other opportunities, perhaps. Or maybe you work for Fortune 500. So you can be an intrapreneur. You can work within the company as if you're one of the owners. Go the extra mile, which will get you recognition and promotion in that system. Take your resources and invest it passively into someone else's business that happens to be an entrepreneur who's out there actively doing it. Do you follow me? 70% is expended on lifestyle pursuits. 10% goes to your church or charity. 10% to active capital. I'm going to do an enterprise at home or whatever. I'm going to bake some cupcakes, set up a lemonade stand or a frosty stand with my children, or give them 10% to run the lawnmowers and clear snow, whatever that is. And then passive capital. Find other ventures to invest in. And if we apply that, that's the simple approach, and monitor our attitude or our philosophy. Am I like, woe is me, the government can't get it together? Or I'm like, it doesn't matter if they get it together. There's opportunity in every economy. I heard the Civil War. How many of us heard of the Great Depression? Who knows the statistic of what happened with the Great Depression as it relates to money and millionaires? More millionaires per capita were created in the Great Depression than any other time in this history of this nation. So in the midst of crisis, chaos, there is opportunity, right? So we're going to maximize the opportunities, minimize the danger. That's the simple formula that all of the wealthy people who have preceded you and me used. That's what has Bill Gates where he is, Warren Buffett where he is, Apple Corporation where they are, Oprah Winfrey where she is, Tyler Perry where he is. He took his talent, found an audience. He doesn't have to go to anybody for money because he has a 1 million person email list that liked his plays. So he sends out, hey, I'm doing this play, I'm doing this movie. And that ability to communicate and share content creates currency. And now he's one of the highest paid people in Hollywood. Do you all see our opportunity? Yes. Do you see our opportunity? Sure. If you're alive, say I'm alive. If you're awake, say I'm awake. If you're alert, say I'm alert. If you're excited about your opportunity, say I'm enthusiastic. So I want to encourage you, admonish you, charge you to go out, take that enthusiasm, take the life that we have, seize the opportunities, apply the knowledge, and make a difference in the world, and help transform our nation and the world in this new revolution. Thank you for your time.